This video covers May 13th and 14th, 2024, days 33 and 34 of my Great American Motorcycle Journey. Today's meanderings took me 206 miles, across a landscape so strange and beautiful it's like riding on another planet. This was a visually stunning day. I started early in Mexican Hat, with pancakes and eggs at the San Juan Inn. The choice was easy. It was the only place open for breakfast. My first few stops were right outside of town. I rode over to see Mexican Hat Rock, a giant stone slab balanced on top of a sandstone pillar, framed by the desert sky. And then I made my way toward the Moki Dugway. The Moki Dugway is a famously steep, dirt and gravel road that climbs 1,000 feet up into the cliffs and gives you a beautiful view of the Valley of the Gods. On a big heavy touring bike like mine, it was still probably doable. In fact, I've seen people ride it on big bikes like Road Kings in YouTube videos. But it didn't help me get where I was going. It would have just been 3 miles up and then 3 miles down. And so after watching a few cars head up the roadway and thinking it through, I decided to pass. It would have been a risk. Just dropping the bike and breaking something, or even twisting my ankle on the steep gravel, could have put a huge dent in my trip. So I think it was the right call. Still, it stung a little to pass it by. Next, I stopped at Goosenecks State Park, where the river has carved deep, looping canyons in the desert. The river's version of switchbacks. It's really cool to see, but if you're not planning to hike, it really only takes a few minutes to check it out. Back on the road, I headed north, towards Blanding and Moab. At a stop for some gas and some Gatorade, I met a fellow rider, Ben, from Montreal. He was riding a BMW GS and camping through the Southwest for 3 weeks. And he had just come from the White Rim Road in Canyonlands National Park. One of the toughest and most desolate rides out there. The White Rim Road is about 100 miles of rugged terrain with no water, no gas, and no support. And Ben's bike was one of the dirtiest, dustiest machines I had ever seen. And he had a smile from ear to ear. Now Ben had the perfect bike for the Moki Dugway, and he had never heard of it, so I pointed him in that direction and wished him a great ride. It was a good reminder that everyone's journey is just a little different, and you have to ride your own ride. After a few hours, I made it to Moab. And lunch was at the Moab Garage Company. A goat cheese and berry salad in an air-conditioned restaurant. After last night's gas station dinner, it felt like a luxury. And then it was off to Arches National Park. Even with my timed entry pass, I still had to wait 45 minutes baking in the hot sun. At the entrance it was 85 degrees. Full riding gear, full face helmet, no shade. I'd move a few feet, turn off the bike for 5 minutes, then creep forward a little more. When I finally got to the gate, the ranger asked how I was doing. All I could think to say was, medium rare. I showed my National Park Pass and stopped at the visitor center. I took some pictures, drank some water, bought some stickers, and I sat in the air conditioning for about 45 minutes. When I finally cooled off, I got back on the bike and headed into the park. Arches is sensory overload in the best way possible. Just after the visitor center, you make a right turn and climb a steep road out of the valley. Then you make a left, and suddenly you're surrounded by towering stone fins, giant balanced rocks, and the delicate sandstone arches carved over millions of years. The landscape isn't just beautiful, it's solemn. Even with the crowds, there's a hush over the park. There's no leaves rustling, there's no trees whispering, just the open desert and the occasional murmur of people standing in awe. I rode all the way out to the delicate arch viewpoint and walked the 20-minute hike up to see the arch, one of the park's signature sights. Standing there, looking at that impossibly thin, elegant arch of stone, it reminded me of an exhibit at the visitor center, talking about how these arches are formed by erosion, and how they're still eroding every single day. Someday they'll collapse. They'll be gone. They'll just become part of the desert sand. And somehow, we're here now, alive at the same time as them, lucky enough to see them. That night I stayed in Moab at the Virginian Inn. Simple, clean, and perfectly located. After a really long shower, I grabbed some Mediterranean pasta at Gloria's and an ice-cold beer at Woody's Tavern to toast the day. It was a good day. A really good day. The next day I spent just wandering around town. A great breakfast at the Moab Diner, and then a nice long walk. With all the outdoor gear stores around town, I took the opportunity to get some supplies and sanitize my water bottle, and I bought a second one to carry more water. I picked up some tech wash to clean my riding gear. It was getting a little stinky. And I restocked my sunscreen and some toiletries. Simple things, but it was good to get them done. The whole town of Moab revolves around exploration. There are bikes, jeeps, side-by-sides on every corner, for tours or rentals. And people hit the trails early in the morning to escape the heat of the afternoons. It felt good to slow down and walk around, just to be for the day. As I watched the late afternoon storm clouds building over the desert, I kept thinking about time and how fleeting it is. How easy it is to believe that we have more time than we do. In researching a quote for today, I found this from Jack Kornfeld. The trouble is, you think you have time. It's a good reminder to explore now. Not someday. Not later, but now. Tomorrow, I head towards Canyonlands and Capitol Reef, and cooler temperatures in the mountains. Thanks for riding along. Until the next ride, be safe, be curious, and keep meandering.